All right, so now we're recording the podcast simultaneously, Monday morning here in Paradise. And just a little bit hard up for podcast content because I don't have much time this week. I'm having my friend Ram on as a guest on Friday, so that should be a really fascinating interview about the stock market and Bitcoin and stuff. He's a very successful person in the finance world who shares his views on X all the time. You've probably seen him over there, Ram Aluwalia. So he will be on, and I'm working on getting a number of other fascinating people before we go into our summer break. But for the time being, I want to make sure that I'm as healthy as possible and that I have a long life. And maybe the answer is just chug a 2-liter of Coke and breakfast, Little Debbie's zebra cake. I'm trying to emulate Warren Buffett here, right? Because Warren Buffett is 94 years old and the largest single holder of treasuries of T-bills on the planet. And his company has more than $300 billion in cash on hand. And so I guess the performance diet is Coca-Cola and little junk snacks, little junk food. Hey, good morning, Busted. Good morning, everybody else. Yeah, a lot of stuff to discuss this morning, actually. So where do we even begin? Where should we start? I guess we continue from where we left off on Friday. So on Friday, I said I was going to short Tesla, and I was thinking about heavily shorting the chip index, the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index, which includes AMD, Intel, Texas Instruments, NVIDIA, of course, and other chip makers. So I said I was going to do this, and I got some updates from you guys, right? There's some people contacting me requesting updates. I hope you didn't place that short, Seaman, you idiot. I hope you didn't actually go through with what you said. Well, not only did I, right before the market closed, I was looking at how much I was down on my shorts, because these aren't simple shorts, they're leveraged, right? The one against the chips is actually negative 300%. So every dollar that index loses, in theory, I make $3. And the Tesla one is negative 200%. So every dollar that Tesla stock declines, every percent that Tesla stock declines, I should in theory make 3%. And something deep in my man sack told me to hold. Something cried out and said hold. And so I didn't sell any of my shorts. And shortly after market close, Moody's out of nowhere announces this downgrade of the United States. Big credit rating agency Moody's, downgrade of U.S. debt, and the market over the weekend shatters. And from what I just saw, it looks like I made a fortune. So these people who keep praying for me to not do well, I've already done well. You should focus on yourselves, you know. We're all just here to lift each other up. Just a bunch of hairless monkeys here to make some money and lift each other up and teach each other what we know. And when you're constantly praying for somebody else to do poorly, you're running afoul of that. You're running afoul of that good faith. And I think there are some dark metaphysics at work. Without going into any weird details, I think there's some dark metaphysics at work around me where if you're trying really hard to hurt me, at least this has been my recent experience, you're trying really hard to ding me or to dent me, it just boomerangs right around. And I don't even hear about it until later. That's the power of, getting your house in order. Pretty wild. But I've actually seen that. People try so hard to wreck me, and I don't even hear about it until afterwards. I'm like, I don't even know. But yeah, so these people constantly praying for the downfall of others. Is that true Christianity? Is that what Jesus would want, praying for the scarcity of others while you hope for abundance for yourself? It seems a little negative to me. But yeah, so this Monday morning as we're waiting for the market to open here, I just want to say that we've started the ad campaign. We turned that on over the weekend. Massive online ad campaign on some of your favorite social networks, directing people to my live streams as well as the podcast episode, explaining what happened to those Joe Rogan episodes. Because we have these engagement farmers now on social media who keep spinning up these long threads about me. And hey, if you want to make up a fake history of my life after I'm dead and gone, that's your prerogative, I guess. But I'm still here. I'm still here. I'm at the top of my game. And so I'm going to say my say, and I'm going to do my do, And to have other people saying my say, just a bunch of third worlders desperate for ad revenue, making up a fairy tale about me, but a pathetic fairy tale. I think the truth is actually more fascinating than the sad story they keep trying to get out there. And so people have asked me would I go back on Rogan to clear the record. I don't think he's going to invite me on. And at this point, I don't really see a point to that, right? Like with all the advertising we're doing, more people are going to end up listening to the podcast where I explained what happened to me than would actually watch a Rogan episode, right? Like at least 1 million or 2 million people are going to consume that content this week. And so do I need to go on Rogan if I've already explained what happened? But I do think it's weak. And as I said the other day, I don't think it's Rogan making these decisions. When you're that famous or that rich, there's this little ecosystem of people around you that forms. And they're like your immune system against bullshit, right? So you'll find this. If you have any family friends who know like Jamie Dimon or Bill Gates or any of these other kind of luminaries out there, they're not making all their own decisions. They've got a guy who knows about certain subjects, and they'll contact that person and say, hey, is there anything to this? And so that these little viziers that pop up and these little, advisors, they accrue a lot of power. And if you're not nice to these people, or if you don't care about these people, or if they think you're not what that person wants, they will shut you out. And I won't say his name, but I've interacted with him many times in the past. Rogan's booker is a guy who's really into MMA and thinking for yourself and being a strong-minded male. And I can't think of anything less strong-minded or independent than going along with silencing the person who was talking about those WikiLeaks years ago, those human trafficking WikiLeaks. Now with the FBI director, Kash Patel, with him talking about how they're looking into this stuff. This is not the year to try to discredit me, right? You think human trafficking is a hoax? How naive, how pathetically naive. But yeah, so just a little guy who makes it seem like he's all about letting people say their say. He's really into holding yourself accountable. I think you should hold yourself accountable for trying to delete me from existence. And when people are asking to have me back on, you were 100% the log in the machine. You were 100% the monkey wrench that prevented Joe from having me back on. And you know who you are. I'm not going to say the guy's name. Joe's booker. He knows who he is. Oh, shit. Again, we're on the Warren Buffett diet today. Coca-Cola and Little Debbie's. Yeah, very, very strange, So you thought I was such a bad dude for telling Joe's audience about Bitcoin when they were between $80 to $100 each. And this morning, there's something like $105,000 each. That makes me such a bad dude. Again, or telling people about these WikiLeaks emails when now this stuff is finally all coming out with the P. Diddy freak-offs and just all of it. This is not the year to go against this stuff. This is not the year to try to shut out crypto investors when we have more money than the banks we're dealing with. And this is not the year to say that human trafficking is a hoax, unless you want all the adults in the room to think there's something genuinely wrong with you. I'm going to pour this Coke. I'll be right back. All right, so what else did I want to cover today? I think that's really it. So the previous times that the U.S. has been downgraded by a ratings agency, there has always been a slide in stocks. The last 2 times anyways, massive slide over the days after that decision. And so not financial advice, but when the market opens in like 20 minutes, I'm probably going to place some broad shorts on, I'm thinking small caps. I'm thinking I don't want to necessarily bet for much longer against the chips, because those are some of the most advanced companies in the world. I think I'd rather just go against broad index of small cap companies, maybe go against the Russell 2000 or something, because then I'm just exposing myself to the fact that these small companies are totally being hit by the tariffs. I know Trumpies like to say it's not impacting anything, but yes, it is. These companies are suddenly paying 100-something% more for their imports, and they can't turn that around at 140% more markup. And so they're currently losing money, many of these companies. We won't see it until their quarterly results and stuff. But for me anyways, that's where I want to park some of my cash, is just being broadly against the weakest of the weak, which I think is the small cap companies. Outside of biotech, I don't like small caps much. Because what's weird is a small cap, it's like you go in there and maybe your goal is to make 10 or 20%, but you can ruin yourself if they don't do well, right? Whereas some of these massive companies like Microsoft, after their earnings call recently, I believe Microsoft went up 10% in one day, right? So when a company worth trillions can net you a 10% gain in a single day, and same with companies like Tesla, right? You can play Tesla both ways, at least I have. When you feel strong about it, you can buy Tesla stock. And some people have made a fortune off of Tesla, even though it's a big company at this point by market cap. So my thought process is, why fuck around with small caps, which have less liquidity and way more risk, when you can still grind out an easy 10 or 20% in a short period of time from just watching the monster tech stocks. But yeah, good morning, everybody. And not financial advice. I'm sure my life view would not work for other people, right? If you're some spineless guy who spends all your time presenting yourself as an MMA tough guy and you care about family values and shit, but you're literally responsible for silencing the journalist who broke Pizzagate, and you're literally responsible for silencing the guy who was basically Prometheus's messenger back in the day. The number of podcasts I did about Bitcoin was not always a cool topic. Trust me, way back when, you're looked at as a borderline scammer if you were booked on a show to talk about Bit. Again, the Warren Buffett diet here. Coca-Cola in the morning and Little Debbie's. Little Debbie's zebra cake. But yeah, I'm going to continue to say my say. And again, the engagement farmers are totally obnoxious. And the people who want me to go back on Rogan, there's really no need, because that podcast, you can hear exactly what happened. And I'm not ashamed of my past. Why should other people be ashamed of it? Like learning about Bitcoin before the rest of the world, reading John Podesta's emails when nobody else had the balls to do so. These are things that will eventually be appreciated, even if it takes many years. Thank you guys so much. Enjoy the week. And on Friday, again, should be a good interview on the podcast with my old buddy, Rom. All right, and for the audio podcast folks, we just turned off the live stream. Thank you guys so much for being here. Greatly appreciate it. And again, tune in on Friday.